Have you ever been told you're too quiet, maybe too serious, or way too intense? Well, this one's for you. For years, you might have just nodded and accepted those labels as facts. But what if they're not facts at all? What if they're just misinterpretations of a mind that's running on a completely different frequency?
You know that feeling, right? It's like everyone else is running on Windows, but your brain is this custom-built, deep processing Linux system. It's incredibly powerful, for sure, but man, it is not always compatible with the world around you. So today, we're going to decode that system. All right, let's get into it. We're going to start by busting the 3 biggest myths people believe about personalities like this. Then, we'll get to the single truth that explains everything. And finally, we'll talk about how to turn all of this into your greatest strength. Okay, let's kick things off with the #1 accusation. You're antisocial. But look, this isn't about you disliking people, not at all. This is about that fierce, almost primal need you have to protect your personal and mental space. Do any of these hit home? That jolt of dread when the doorbell rings out of the blue? Or that deep sense of relief when you let a call go to voicemail? Society slaps the antisocial label on this stuff. But psychology? Well, it has a much, much deeper explanation. And this is the core of the misunderstanding right here. It's not about being antisocial. The reality? Your brain is fiercely protecting its cognitive bandwidth. Think of it like a computer that's running some really heavy, important software in the background. You just can't afford to let random pop-ups drain all your processing power. And get this, psychology actually has a name for this feeling. It's called cognitive intrusion. An unexpected phone call isn't just a little chime. It feels like a violent trespass on your mental property. It forces your brain to slam on the cognitive emergency brake, completely shattering whatever deep thought you were in. The feeling isn't social anxiety, it's a real sense of being invaded. So what about crowded places? Well, this often comes down to a trait called high sensory processing sensitivity. Your brain is basically like a high-fidelity microphone. It picks up everything, the lights, the sounds, the movement. So in a chaotic place, you're not avoiding people, you're desperately trying to prevent a total system crash from sensory overload. Now, this protective wiring leads us straight into the second big myth, that you're arrogant. This is for anyone who's ever been called aloof, or maybe difficult, just because you don't automatically accept things at face value. It's really fascinating how these things get twisted, isn't it? Hating small talk isn't about feeling superior. It's about having a really low tolerance for meaningless data. And questioning the rules, that's not rebellion. It's a deep need for things to be logically consistent. So here's the reframe. The world might see arrogance, but the reality is that your mind is just wired for depth and authenticity. It automatically rejects superficial stuff, not because of ego, but because it's on a constant search for meaning, for substance, for what's real. And this is all powered by something psychologists call a strong internal locus of control. All that means is your sense of self-worth is generated from the inside out. You don't need a bunch of likes to feel valued or someone else's opinion to feel secure. And that's exactly why you analyze advice so carefully. Your brain wants evidence, not just empty reassurance. Which brings us to our final myth. You're apathetic. And this one can cut pretty deep, because it implies you don't care. When the truth is, you often care so much that you have to manage it very, very carefully. Think about it. Staying calm in a crisis, or taking a moment to analyze your feelings before you speak. Yeah, from the outside, that can definitely look like emotional distance, but on the inside, it's a sign of intense activity, not a lack of it. So let's be perfectly clear. You are not cold. You simply process emotions internally before you ever respond externally. Your emotional world is incredibly rich and vivid. It just doesn't live on the surface for the whole world to see. And yep, there's a term for this too. It's called cognitive distancing. It's actually a highly advanced self-regulation strategy. You use logic to create a little bit of space between an emotional event and your reaction to it. Now, this protects you from being overwhelmed, but to other people, that space can look like a wall. Okay, so we've torn down the myths of being antisocial, arrogant, and apathetic. Now, let's build up the truth. What is the one single principle that connects all of these different traits? First, and this is the most important thing to get, everything you've been criticized for your whole life, it is not a flaw. And it is not some conscious decision you're making to be different from everyone else. It is not a choice. It's the fundamental architecture of your mind. Plain and simple, it's a different wiring. Let's give this a name, the deep processor mind. It's a cognitive profile where you don't just see the world, you analyze its underlying systems. You don't just feel emotions, you deconstruct them. It's not a disorder, it's just a different operating system.
So if that's your wiring, how do you actually use it? This is where we reframe this entire thing into your quiet superpower. How do you stop seeing it as a burden and start using it as your greatest asset in a really noisy world? This quote just says it all, doesn't it? In a world that's obsessed with the shallow, depth is a huge competitive advantage. In a world that's constantly reacting, thoughtfulness is a strategic weapon. Your wiring isn't obsolete. It's actually more necessary now than ever before. So here's your playbook for protecting that power. Step 1, filter your inputs. Be absolutely ruthless about what you allow into your mind. Step 2, master your silence. Use that quiet time to recharge and get clear. Step 3, choose your environment. Put yourself in places that fuel you, not places that drain you. And finally, step 4, value your depth. Stop apologizing for it, own it. And that brings us to the final and most important question. This is what it all comes down to. In a world that is constantly rewarding surface-level performance, noise, and visibility, how are you going to leverage the quiet, incredible power of your depth?